When life feels heavy and direction disappears, most people try to think their way out of the confusion, not realizing that the mind can't give clarity when the body is in a state of stress, fear, or shutdown. That's why the very first step, the most crucial step when you feel lost, is to change your state. Because your state is the foundation of every thought you have, every decision you make, and every possibility you see. When your state is low, the world looks dark. When your state rises, the world opens again. It's not magic, it's not luck, it's physiology. The way you breathe, the way you move, and the way you hold yourself directly shapes your emotional experience, and your emotional experience shapes what you believe is possible. So when you feel lost, you don't have a clarity problem, you have a state problem. And the moment you shift that state, even slightly, the fog begins to lift. Think about what happens when you're overwhelmed or confused. Your breathing becomes shallow, your shoulders drop, your energy collapses inward. In that moment, you're not weak, you're simply caught in a pattern. And patterns can be broken. When you feel lost, your mind repeats the same looping stories. I don't know what to do, I can't figure this out, I don't see the path. Those thoughts don't come from truth. They come from a state that is too low to access your strength, creativity, or certainty. That's why the answer is not to sit and overthink. The answer is to interrupt the pattern immediately. Change your breathing, stand up, move your body, shake the tension out, take 3 deep breaths from your diaphragm, not your chest, lift your head as if you already know where you're going, because your body will believe it long before your mind does. Changing your state isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about giving your nervous system the fuel it needs to see clearly again. When you raise your energy, even 10%, you shift what you're capable of thinking about. Suddenly, solutions appear in places that looked empty. Ideas begin to flow again. Your inner strength wakes up. The confusion loses its grip. You start to feel even a small sense of power returning, and from that power, clarity becomes possible. Most people wait for clarity before they act, but clarity comes after the shift in state, not before it. You don't get confidence first, you move your body like a confident person, and your brain follows. You don't get certainty first, you create the physiology of certainty, and certainty rises. Your body is the doorway out of being lost. When you feel lost, ask yourself, what would a powerful, grounded, focused version of me do with my body right now? How would I breathe? How would I sit or stand? How would I look forward? When you mimic that physiology, your brain begins aligning with it. It's the quickest shortcut out of emotional chaos. Because your emotional state determines what you notice. When your state is low, you only see obstacles. When your state rises, you see options. When your state rises even more, you see opportunities. Your entire perception changes, even though the situation around you may be exactly the same. That's the power of changing your state. The world doesn't have to change for you to rise. You rise first, and then everything else begins to shift. This is why people break through in moments of intensity. In a moment of deep breathing, or powerful movement, or emotional release, everything that felt impossible suddenly becomes manageable. Not because the problem changed, but because you changed. Your mind finally gets access to resources it couldn't reach when you were collapsed emotionally. The truth is, clarity isn't something you think into existence. It's something you access when your body is aligned with strength, not fear. When you're lost, it's easy to get stuck in your head. But the mind is a terrible place to solve problems when the body is in a survival state. Break the state, and the mind unlocks its power again. Changing your state also reconnects you with possibility. When you feel lost, life feels like it's pressing down on you. But the moment you raise your energy, you can lift your perspective. You can step outside the problem long enough for the answers to start forming. Your breathing slows the panic. Your movement disrupts the fear. Your posture signals your brain that you're capable of facing whatever is in front of you. And in that moment, something beautiful happens. You remember that you've been here before. You remember other times you didn't know what to do, but you figured it out. You remember that confusion doesn't last forever. You remember that you've already survived things you once thought would break you. Strength returns with movement. Certainty returns with breath. And it's not just about changing your state once. It's about mastering your state so that confusion can't control your life. When you build the habit of shifting your energy, the moment you start to spiral, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop waiting for clarity to fall out of the sky. You create clarity by changing the lens you're looking through, and that lens is always shaped by your state. The world is not as it is. The world is as you are in the moment you look at it. Change you, and the world looks different instantly. So when you feel lost, don't sit still. Don't retreat into your thoughts. Don't collapse into the familiar patterns that keep you stuck. Stand up, breathe deeply, move with intention, shift your energy, create momentum inside your body. Because the moment you do, the mind follows, the heart follows. The path that once looked blurry starts becoming visible again. You don't need the whole path to feel certain. You just need to reconnect to the part of you that remembers how powerful you truly are, and that connection begins with changing your state. When you feel lost, when life stops fitting together the way it used to, most people interpret that moment as failure. They think it means something is wrong with them, that they've taken a wrong turn, or that they're falling behind. But feeling lost is not a sign of failure at all. It's a signal. A powerful internal message that your old identity, the one you've been carrying for years, is no longer big enough for the person you're meant to become next. It means the chapter you've been living has reached its limits, and life is nudging you, sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully, toward a new one. You're not lost because you're weak. You're lost because you're growing. Every time you hit that place where nothing feels clear, it's because the version of you that was running your life is being stretched beyond its capacity. Your old patterns, your old beliefs, your old habits, your old ways of coping, your old definitions of who you are, they don't match the future you're stepping into. That mismatch feels like confusion, but underneath it, something far more meaningful is happening. You're shedding an old identity. You're breaking open. You're entering the space where transformation begins. Being lost is not a dead end. It's a doorway. For most people, the discomfort of that moment becomes something they try to escape. They numb it, avoid it, overthink it, run from it. They desperately try to fit themselves back into the old version of life because the uncertainty feels unbearable, but the truth is, you can't shrink back into who you were. That identity has already expired. That chapter has already served its purpose. The discomfort is simply the tension between who you were and who you're becoming. The question is not what's wrong with me, but what is this moment trying to pull out of me? Feeling lost is one of the most honest experiences a human being can have. It strips away the illusions of control and exposes the truth of where you really are. It shows you what's no longer working. It reveals the beliefs that no longer serve you. It forces you to confront what you've ignored, postponed, or suppressed. And in that raw space, something extraordinary becomes possible reinvention. Every person who has ever created a powerful life has walked through a season where they felt unclear, uncertain, and disconnected from their old identity. That stage is not a detour, it's a rite of passage. When you feel lost, it's because the internal map you've been using is outdated. Your mind is trying to navigate a new terrain using old directions, and that mismatch creates inner friction. You keep trying to move forward, but something feels off. That feeling is not punishment. It's guidance. It's life saying the way you've been doing things is too small for who you're meant to be next. It's an invitation to pause, to listen, and to evolve. The problem is not that you're lost. The problem is that nobody ever taught you to see lostness as part of the journey, not the end of it. Human beings grow in cycles. There is the phase where things make sense, where life feels aligned, where you see the path clearly. Then there's the phase where that clarity dissolves, where things slow down or fall apart, where old desires fade and new ones haven't arrived yet. That in-between space is the cocoon, the identity between identities, the version of you that is dissolving and the version that is rising. But from the inside, a cocoon feels like darkness. It feels like confusion. It feels like being lost. Yet the entire time, transformation is happening beneath the surface.